This is Lockpicker 1969, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to the next episode of Interview with a Lockpicker. Today's guest is Alpama. Say hi.
Hi there.
So where are you from?
So I'm from Australia.
Okay. So whereabouts in Australia?
Yeah, so I'm in Victoria, which is the southeast side of Australia.
Okay. So how and when did you get into lockpicking?
So it has to be 2016 or thereabouts. So around then, I was pretty young and I was just looking for a hobby to fill my time. I stumbled onto a video some way of just some guy picking a clear lock, and I thought, that doesn't look too hard. Surely I can get my hands on that, and so I did. I bought some cheap Chinese picks, and I did that for a couple months. Dropped it for the better part of 5, 6 years, and around 2021, during the pandemic, I got back into it, which I feel like a lot of people did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
think a
I
lot of
got
people
onto
got into
LP.
it for the very first time during the pandemic, too.
I agree. Yeah, and yeah, so I got into it. I went on to LPU. I said, "Hey, I'm from Australia, looking for locks to pick. Does anyone have recommendations?" I got onto the Australian community through that, and I've met some fantastic people through that. Uh, it was around July where I got my first lock internationally, an American 1100, and I've been hooked ever since.
Okay. So I understand after that you pursued getting even more locks.
Yeah, so in general, I sort of hit a plateau after that 1100, um, because I joined and then I just sort of stopped. And then I came back to it a while later, about 9 months. And I was like, okay, I've got more time on my hands now. And I want to actually get serious about this. So I remember putting up like a few like buy orders in the Australian server where I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, hey, what are some good locks to get for X amount? And Do Not Duplicate sold me two locks. There was a Medico Original and NASA Desmo. Both of them are fantastic locks, in my opinion.
Nice.
And yeah, as soon as I got the bug from picking the Medico, I kind of just didn't stop.
So you had to have at some point found that either was it the Chinesium picks
Yeah.
that they just weren't going to work for you, or what happened?
Yeah, so it had to be about between the time where I got that Medico and my hiatus. I'd lost my Chinesium picks at some point, probably from the move, because that was a pretty turbulent point in my life. So I went around, I asked, what's some good lockpick manufacturers? I got some good answers from the community. I picked up Sparrows. Later, I picked up a couple Peterson, but yeah, generally, I used a ton of Sparrows for the longest time. Um, and they're fine, but I found that with so many brands, there's tons of options.
Yes.
I picked up some multi picks later on. I picked up some. Bare Bones had just started to become a thing in Australia, so I picked up a ton from them. And obviously, with Moki becoming much more common in the last couple of months, maybe a year, I picked some of those up along with a pouch, and I've been using them pretty much as my daily drivers.
Okay. What do you like about the Moki picks? I like them. That's why I'm
Uh,
asking.
yeah. Yeah, so I mean, if I should first say that I'm not affiliated with Moki, but uh, because this is basically going to be a glowing review of them. They have great steel. They are greatly finished, like to an incredible extent,
Yeah.
like nearly, I would say, nearly custom pick level extent
Yeah.
of finish. Uh, the steel that they made out of 301 high yield is probably the best on the market in terms of the price to performance. There's two picks in one, so if you break one end, you can snap off the bit of metal at the other end, and then there's the exact same profile. I mean, there's nothing not to love.
Yeah, no kidding. Agree 100%. So early on, so you mentioned that you had watched a YouTuber that was picking locks with bobby pins, and that kind of got you interested and intrigued. Who else would you say you watched or have watched, or maybe you currently are watching, who you feel have been influencers to your picking?
Yeah, so back in 2016, I watched a lot of the high security stuff from Lockpicking Lawyer. So back then, that was the first maybe 600 videos he had done, and they were all of super high security locks, things that are black belt now. Very, very difficult things, dimple locks, high pin count, and other just generally tough pin tumblers. After that sort of hiatus, I stopped watching for a while, and then I remember because it was Locknew who really got me back into it back in 2021. He came up on my recommended for some reason, and I just remember watching his like 100 things to do in Locksport or something similar to that.
Yep.
And it was just like this huge turning point where I was like, I kind of want to come back into this. And yeah, I watched that and I decided, you know what, this guy's pretty cool. I'll go back into it. Ever since then, I've just been watching a lot of the high sec pickers. HV Logic, he's picked literal hundreds of challenge locks. So it was from that I really wanted to get into challenge lock picking. Mick, that is Mick Emhart on LPU.
Okay.
He made this crazy challenge lock. Inside of a 334B, he made an Emhart, a handmade Emhart, and that really made me interested. And I guess that's really my big sort of inspiration to picking locks was Mick's challenge lock.
Okay. So you got into the LPU belts. What belt are you right now?
So currently I'm red belt. I should be working towards black, but there's a lot of work that goes into the big transition, and
Yep.
I've been a bit lazy.
Okay. Can you talk about your journey to red?
Oh yeah. So as I said, the first lock that I got when I came back was a Medico. So I got to about green, and then I plateaued after that, like during that 6 year hiatus in lockpicking. And so when I got back, I picked up the Medico, and I, spent a day or two learning that. I got it picked. I got it on video. But because there's this huge wall between making the video for green and upwards, it gets really difficult, right? Because it's hard to get your recording set up and that sort of thing. So for the longest time, I was green. And it was only until actually this year in 2023 that I made my challenge lock and got to purple. And then after I got to purple, I picked the Corbin Russwin Emhart and the ASA 600 with gins. And they're very fun locks. Red belt is fair for them, I would say.
Okay. So for blue, though, well, it sounds like did you skip blue altogether and go from green to purple?
Yeah, so when I was around that blue level, I didn't have the tools to make a CL. So obviously you need to buy like file sandpaper, challenge lock stock, all of that. I didn't have any of that, so I was more focused on picking for the longest time. And so after I did make my CL, I just skipped straight to purple.
Okay. So can you talk about your first CL that you got that you needed for the blue?
Yeah. So honestly, it was nothing special. I got some pins. I got a Dremel. and I used some files to cut them out. It was mostly spooled action. Um, I didn't really have such a fine file to be able to make serrations with, so it was mostly just spooling.
Okay.
It was a bit. I tried to do some like traps inside of the lock by uh, overcutting some of the chambers. There's some T-pins in there. It was pretty basic, but it was a first challenge lock, and I'm not too unhappy with it.
Okay. So you mentioned to me that you're looking at making another one at some point.
Yeah. So I was thinking uh, about making another one. I was hoping to start incorporating some more impactful ideas, threading and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing, because in the Australian community, we've got a ton of really, really talented
Yes, you do.
challenge lock makers. So people like Prince, people like Space Nut, they all make some fantastic challenge locks, and they're quite frankly inspirations for this sort of idea. Recently, I went to a meet and I picked this lock from Prince, and it was crazy because there was this one super, super low lift. Like if you touch it, basically you overset it. And then behind it, there was some milling and threading for some really high lifts. And I really want to get my hands on, some taps to be able to try that myself.
Okay. So you also mentioned to me that you've picked quite a few challenge locks yourself.
Yeah, so although I haven't recorded a lot of them, I've picked maybe 30 of them in my own time. I just find them really fun because to me, what makes lockpicking fun isn't, the stupidly high security stuff that oversets if you blow on it the wrong way. But I like locks that speak to you, and I like locks that really give you nice feedback.
We wouldn't do that as challenge lock makers.
Right?
So okay. I definitely need to have you come back for an interview as a challenge lock picker, though.
Yeah, I would be very happy to do that.
Okay. So at some point, well, so like most pickers who pursue the belts, you do your belt videos. So you start a YouTube channel to share those. You have a channel, and you used it for that initially. What are you using it for today, and what do you plan on doing with your channel?
So in general, I kind of post uh harder locks that I think are worth putting on video, things like the Dom Plura. It's rated as blue belt, but a lot of people say that they have struggles with it. I kind of want to make videos that help pickers. So I have a video for medicos, which a lot of people have struggles with because of the rotations. Uh, I have a video of my first lock that I ever picked. And I just really like to explain the ideas that I have when I go into a lock and what makes it easier for me when I'm picking locks.
Okay. All right. So, what would you say some of your latest either achievements or pursuits have been?
Yeah, so recently I've actually been picking quite a few black belt locks. I've been poking at them. So I just need to get them on camera, but I've picked the Australian Bilock. I've picked the Ever 3KS. I'm getting an Acid Twin Combian, so I hope to pick that. In general, it's just a lot of high security stuff that I think represents me as a picker quite well, which is to say, things that give good feedback whilst also being challenging.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. So, what exactly do you do for a living?
So I work in paralegal uh, in a
Okay.
bank. So I work with the courts, and yeah, we do some things regarding customer assets and things like that if they go to jail.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting field to be in. And you got a very interesting combination between legal and banking.
Yeah, it's definitely a crossover that I didn't expect when I first got
Yeah.
into this industry.
Yeah, I do quite a bit with legal in the banking industry myself, so definitely I can understand that one. So I wanted to get in a little bit about what some of your hobbies are.
Yeah. So, for hobbies, the
Uh,
longest standing one that I've had,
Other than lockpicking, of course.
yeah, other than lockpicking, yeah, uh, easily the longest standing one that I've had is chess. I've played chess since I was 4, and I am a teacher. Uh, in chess, I enjoy, much like my video style, I suppose. I like educating,
Mm-hmm.
so I've had students from all across the world. And yeah, I really do enjoy uh, bringing the game that I'm very passionate about to other people.
So
Other than that, mm,
do you like teaching beginning, middle, and end move type strategy and
in general, when I have a student, I try and find out what their weakness is, and I try and help them to incorporate ways to sort of remedy that issue. Because obviously, chess is entirely a mental game, right?
Mhm.
You just have to play good moves. So if you're weak in a certain part of chess, then I try and find ways to help them to fix that and really get the most out of their chess play.
Okay. So, you know, as I've said many times before, if there's a rabbit hole to fall into, I'll fall into it with regard to anything, and chess was no exception.
Yes.
Got into collecting chess sets, and I probably have
Mm,
50 different varieties made from all sorts of different materials. So I
yeah.
definitely have loved chess my entire life, so I can definitely relate to that passion for that game.
Mm.
So what else? What other hobbies do you have?
So other than chess, I do like playing video games quite a lot. Uh, a lot of older games in general.
So
So
retro.
retro games,
Yep.
yeah, retro games and like things from the nine, like early 90s to the late 2000s before the turn of like the 2010s. That's my passion. So arcade games and like old PC games,
So
I find really fun.
what's your favorite platform emulator?
So I definitely prefer to play on PC. But yeah, as you said, if I emulate, if I have to play console games, I do prefer to emulate. Um, because I mean, there's just so much. It's just so much easier,
Oh,
right? You have a computer, and all you need to do is get a controller, plug it in, and
yep.
you're basically just playing on the console. But it's more stable and much nicer.
So what's your favorite one?
My favorite, definitely. Uh that's a tough one. So I am really into strategy games, and there's a ton of them on the SNES. So uh I use this emulator called SNES 9X,
Okay.
and it yeah, it's just absolutely perfect for all the things I need it to be.
Okay. But you still haven't answered the question. What's your favorite one?
My favorite video game.
Yes.
Oh dear, that's a question. Oh, uh, I
What?
really like
Yeah. Which one's
Dragon
the
Age
Dragon Age? Okay.
Origins. Yeah, Dragon Age Origins. I like Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I like a majority of the older Fire Emblem games.
So quest based
Uh,
games.
yeah, so RPGs, strategy games, that sort of thing. Yeah, where player choice really matters. That's what I
Hmm.
like.
All right. So you mentioned also having an interest in linguistics.
Yes, I do study languages. I think that it helps me to connect with the people all around the world.
Okay. Very cool. Okay, last question before we wrap up.
Yeah.
What would you say is your favorite aspect of Locksport?
Definitely, I think connecting with all the people around the world. It's the same reason that I like linguistics. It's not even a thing of like Locksport itself, I feel. It's just there's this huge community and everyone has a different take on something. Everyone has some sort of advice to give and a unique voice. And I think that's really important to not only the longevity of the hobby, but also to bringing new people in and just making it fun for everyone.
Okay. All right, I lied. Not last question. I want to go back to I want to go back to linguistics really quick. Do you speak any
Yeah.
other languages?
Yeah, so I'm natively born Chinese, but I speak Chinese. Uh, Obviously, I speak English
Yeah.
as my sort of day-to-day language here in Australia. I speak French. I lived there. I speak Japanese, and I speak a smattering of all other languages that I've spent a couple months learning each,
Oh
just to
wow.
sort of get a feel and get my toes dipped
That's
in that culture.
that's impressive. You could be the Locksport ambassador. All right. Is there anything you'd like to say to our audience before we wrap up?
Not too much. Just be kind to each other and be good to yourselves.
All right. I really enjoyed talking with you, especially about the chess, and we seem to have very similar paths with regard to some aspects of our careers and what
Yeah.
we're doing. So that was a lot of fun to talk through with you.
Mm.
All right. So with that, we'll wrap this one up. If you are a subscriber, thank you. If you are not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications and all, and hit like on the video. And thank you for listening.